I'm a second year medical student and today I'll be demonstrating the physical examination video of the musculoskeletal system. So I'll be performing the shoulder examination, the hand and wrist examination and the knee examination. So first we'll begin with the shoulder examination and we'll begin with inspection of the shoulder. So first we'll inspect the shoulder and the shoulder girdle anteriorly. Then can you move? Then posteriorly we'll look for any swellings or deformities over the scapula. There are none present, and there are no fasciculations also. So next we'll be palpating through the shoulder joint. So we'll begin with the same.
Beginning medially at the sternoclavicular joint, trace the clavicle laterally with your fingers. From behind, follow the bony spine of the scapula laterally and upward until it becomes the acromion, the summit of the shoulder. Its upper surface is rough and slightly convex. Find the anterior tip of acromion. With your index finger on top of the acromion, just behind its tip, press medially with your thumb to find the slightly elevated ridge that marks the end of the clavicle at the acromioclavicular joint. Move your thumb medially and down a short step to the next bony prominence, the coracoid process of the scapula. With your thumb on the coracoid process, allow your fingers to fall on and grasp the lateral aspect of the humerus to palpate the greater tubercle where the sits muscle insert. Next, we'll palpate the biceps tendon in the intertubercular bicipital groove. Keep your thumb on the coracoid process and your fingers on the lateral aspect of the humerus. Remove your index finger and place it halfway between the coracoid process and the greater tubercle on the anterior surface of the arm. As you check for the tendon tenderness, rolling the tendon under your fingertips may be helpful. We will next be examining the subacromial and the subdeltoid bursa together with the sits muscle. First, passively extend the humerus by lifting the elbow posteriorly, which rotates the structure so that they are anterior to the acromion. Then, palpate carefully over the subacromial and the subdeltoid bursa. You may also identify the palpable sits muscle, which are the supraspinatus, the infraspinatus, the teres minor, and the subscapularis.
So now we'll be checking the shoulder girdle's range of motion. So we'll begin with flexion. So you have to raise your arm above and over your head. Can you do that? And over your head. Okay, so the flexion is intact now. So now we'll be checking for extension. Subhojit, raise your arm behind you. Okay, now you may relax the arm. Now we'll check for your abduction. Raise your arm above and over your head. That's it, you may rest the arm. Now we'll check for adduction. So cross your arm in front of your body like this. Okay, that's it. So now we'll be checking for internal rotation. So Subhojit, place your hand behind and touch your shoulder blade. Yes, thank you. Now place your arm at your shoulder level, rotate the elbow and outstretch it like this towards the ceiling. Yes. So now we'll be performing different maneuvers for the shoulder examination. So first we'll begin with examining the acromial joint and we'll perform the crossover body test, which is for adduction. So you have to simply adduct your arm across your body. Can you do like this? Yes, okay. So next we'll be performing the Apley scratch test, which is for the overall shoulder joint. So first we'll be checking for the abduction. So you have to touch on your opposite scapula. So first we perform the abduction and external rotation. So you have to do like this. Okay, that's it. And next, and next you have to touch your scapula, the opposite scapula. Yes, this is for internal rotation. So next we are performing the near impingement test. So for this we'll place one hand on the scapula to prevent any scapular motion, and this will press the greater tuberosity against the acromion. If there is any pain present, it means that there is subacromion impingement. So next we'll be performing the Hawkins impingement sign that tests for supraspinatus impingement. So for that we will place the shoulder at 90 degree angle and also the elbow at 90 degree angle. Then we will support the scapula at the back and we will slightly internally rotate the hand to see if there is any pain. If any pain persists, so that is a positive Hawkins impingement sign. Rest your arm. So next we will be performing the drop arm test. So for that we will abduct the arm up till 90 degrees, slightly rotate it, and you have to hold this position. You may relax. So if the arm drops from this position, it is a positive drop arm test that suggests that there is supraspinatus rotator cuff tear. So over here it was a negative sign. So our next examination is the empty can test, which tests for the supraspinatus rotator cuff tear. So for that you have to move your arms like this, raise them, then internally rotate the arms. Okay, now I'll be applying some pressure to lower them. You have to not let me lower your hands. Okay. So here it is a negative empty can test. If the patient is not able to resist the pressure, then that suggests that there is a supraspinatus rotator cuff tear. So now we'll begin with the hand and wrist examination, and first we'll begin with inspection. So for inspection, can you show me your hands? So when the hands are in relaxed position, the fingers should be slightly flexed and it is seen here. Now you have to inspect for any thicknesses, any deformities over the dorsal and the palmar surfaces. There is no thickenings here. Then you have to see any tenderness over the thenar and the hypothenar eminences. None are seen here. There is no tenderness present and the contours are normal. So next we will be palpating over the lateral and medial surfaces for the distal radius and the ulna.
Note any swelling, bogginess or tenderness.
So now we are checking the distal portion of the radius and the anatomic snuff box. So can you externally rotate your thumb like this? Just the thumb. Okay. So this gives us a better view of the anatomic snuff box. So now we'll be testing for each of the
eight carpal bones
and also the metacarpophalangeal joints.
Use your thumb to palpate each metacarpal joint just distal to and on each side of the extensor tendons. Note any swelling or bogginess. Now examine the fingers and thumb. Palpate along the medial and lateral aspects of each proximal interphalangeal and the distal interphalangeal joints, checking for swelling, bogginess, bony enlargement, or tenderness.
So now we'll be testing for the hand grip. So now grasp the fingers of my hand as yes. So this is the test for the wrist joint, the flexor muscles and also the intrinsic muscles of the hand. Now you may relax. So now we'll be performing the Finkelstein's test to test for the thumb movement. So for that you have to hold your thumb against your fingers and then move your arm towards the midline like this. Is there any pain? So there is no pain in the Finkelstein's test. If there is a pain present, that suggests there is decurvain tenosynovitis. So now we'll perform various tests to check if there is carpal tunnel syndrome present in the patient. So first we'll begin with the thumb abduction. So for that you have to hold your thumb like this. Hold it like this. Now I will be applying pressure over here and you have to resist the pressure. Okay. And you have to elevate your thumb. Okay. So next we'll be testing for the Tinel sign. For that I'll be tapping over your median nerve. You have to tell me if there is any aching or numbness. Okay. Okay? Do you feel any pain? No. So so our next test is the Fallon sign. For that you have to flex your wrist at 90 degrees, yes, and fully extend your elbows. Now you have to hold your position like this for 60 seconds and you have to press against both of your hands. Okay. If you feel any pain or tingling, just let me know. Do you feel any pain? No. So that is a negative Fallon sign. So now we'll begin with the knee examination. So for that you have to examine 7 structures: the medial and the lateral meniscus, the anterior cruciate ligament, the posterior cruciate ligament, the medial collateral ligament and the lateral collateral ligament, and the patella tendons. Examination of all the structures during the knee examination is very crucial.
The knee should be extended at heel strike and flex at all other faces. Check the alignment and contours of the knees. Observe any atrophy of the quadriceps muscle.
So now we'll begin with the palpation of the knee joint. So for that you have to flex your knee at 90 degrees. Okay. So first we'll begin with palpation of the tibiofemoral joint. For that you have to place your thumb in the soft tissue depression on the either side of the patella tendons. Identify the groove of the tibiofemoral joint. Here is the groove of the tibiofemoral joint.
As you press your thumbs downward, you can feel the edge of the tibial plateau. By moving your thumbs upward towards the midline to the top of the patella, you can follow the articulating surface of the femur and identify the margins of the joint. Note any irregular bony ridges along the joint margins. Palpate the medial meniscus. Press on the medial soft tissue depression along the upper edge of the tibial plateau with the tibia slightly internally rotated. Place the knee in slight flexion and palpate the lateral meniscus along the lateral joint line. For palpation of the medial compartment, move your thumbs upward to palpate the medial femoral condyle. The adductor tubercle is posterior to the medial femoral condyle. Move your thumbs downward to palpate the medial tibial plateau. Also, medially palpate along the joint line and identify the medial collateral ligament which connects the medial epicondyle of the femur and the medial condyle and the superior medial surface of the tibia. Palpate along this broad flat ligament from its origin to insertion. For palpation of the lateral compartment lateral to the patella tendon, move your thumbs upward to palpate the lateral femoral condyle and downward to palpate the lateral tibial plateau. When the knees are flexed, the femoral epicondyles are lateral to the femoral condyles. Also, on the lateral surface, ask the patient to cross one leg so that the ankle rests on the opposite knee and find the lateral cruciate ligament, a firm cord that runs from the lateral femoral condyle to the head of the fibula. For the palpation of the patellofemoral compartment and the patella tendon, locate the patella and trace the patella tendon distally until you palpate the tibial tuberosity. Ask the patient to extend the knee to make sure the patella tendon is intact. With the patient supine and the knee extended, compress the patella against the underlying femur and gently move it medially and laterally, assessing for crepitus and pain.
Now tighten your quadriceps. Relax. Again.
Ask the patient to tighten the quadriceps as the patella moves distally in the trochlear groove. Check for a smooth sliding motion. Palpate for any thickening or swelling in the suprapatellar pouch and along the margins of the patella. Start 10 centimeters above the superior border of the patella, well above the pouch, and feel the soft tissues between your thumbs and fingers. Continue your palpation along the sides of the patella. Note for any tenderness or increased warmth.
So now we'll be performing the palpation test for knee joint effusions. First we'll begin with the Bull's sign, which is for minor effusions. So here the patient's knee is extended. We have to place our right hand above the knee and apply pressure on the suprapatellar pouch. We have to displace or milk the fluid downwards. We have to apply pressure over here and then we have to tap to see a fluid wave over there. So there is no effusion present in this patient. So that's a negative Bull's sign seen. So next we will be performing the balloon sign that tests for major effusions. So for that we'll place the thumb and the index finger of our right hand on each side of the patella, and with the left hand we'll apply pressure over the suprapatellar pouch against the femur, and we'll check if there is any fluid ejected or is there any ballowing of the patella seen. So none is present here, so that is a negative balloon sign. So next we will be testing for the balloting of the patella for major, that is also a test for major effusions. So for this we have to compress the suprapatellar pouch and ballot or push the patella against the femur. There is no fluid returning in the suprapatellar pouch or in the patella. So this is a negative sign. So now we will be performing different maneuvers for the knee examination. First we will be testing the medial and the lateral meniscus by performing the McCurry's test. So for performing the McCurry's test, the patient should be lying supine. We'll grasp the heel with one hand and then we'll flex at the knee joint about 90 degrees. With the other hand at the patella, we'll apply some pressure laterally for the valgus crest, and then we'll externally rotate his lower leg, and here you should apply a pressure for the valgus test, and at the same time we'll be extending the knee in this position, again flexing it. If there is a palpable click or a pop it suggests that there is a medial tear of the posterior portion of the medial meniscus. So now we'll be testing for the lateral meniscus. So we'll perform the same procedure as the medial meniscus. We'll grasp the heel with one hand, then flex the knee at 90 degrees, and now we'll apply the valgus stress on the medial side and we'll internally rotate. We'll internally rotate the lower leg and extend at the same time. So there is no click or any pop heard over here. So if there is any click or pop heard, so it suggests that there is. So now we'll be testing for the medial collateral ligament. We'll perform the abduction or the valgus stress test. Now the patient here is lying supine. We'll flex the knee slightly, yes, and we have to move the thigh about 30 degrees laterally to the side of the table. One hand should be on the lateral knee and the other should be on the medial ankle. So now we'll push from the lateral knee and pull from the medial side of the ankle. This will basically open the knee joint on the medial side. If there is any pain during this maneuver, that suggests there is a MCL injury. So do you feel any pain?
No.
So that is a negative abduction or the valgus stress sign. So for this test, you have to place your one hand on the medial side of the knee and the other hand on the lateral side of the ankle, and then you have to push laterally against the knee and pull medially in the ankle. So this will open the knee joint, and if there is any pain while performing this maneuver, it suggests that the lateral collateral ligament is teared or it is injured. So do you feel any pain? So that's a negative varus stress test. Rest. So now we will be testing for the anterior cruciate ligament. We are performing the anterior draw test. So with the patient supine, we have to flex the hips and the knees to 90 degrees. The feet should be flat on the table. So, and now we have to place both of our hands in the medial and the lateral, insertions of the hamstring. And now we have to try to draw the tibia forward. So while performing this, we have to see if the tibia comes forward. So here it doesn't. So there is no anterior cruciate ligament tear, and it is a. So now we'll be performing the Latchman's test to see for the anterior cruciate ligament tear. For that, we'll flex the knee 15 degrees and externally rotate it. Now we'll grasp on the distal femur on the lateral side with one hand and proximal tibia, the medial side of the other. Now we'll pull the tibia forward and the femur, and we'll try to push back the femur. So if the tibia slides in anteriorly, it suggests that there is an anterior cruciate ligament tear and a positive Latchman's test. But here, no such thing is seen, so it is a negative Latchman's test. So now we will be testing for the posterior cruciate ligament, and here we are performing the posterior draw test. So the instructions will be same as they were for the anterior draw test. We'll place both the fingers on the insertion of the hamstring posteriorly and over here. Now we'll try to move the tibia posteriorly and see if it slides back or if it slides posterior to the femur.